Happy Monday, everyone. This is Miss Brocker. We're going to start this week kind of with our last part of our volume and surface area unit. We've been working on finding the volume and surface area of rectangular prisms and cubes, and this week we're going to do a little bit of review of both volume and surface area, as well as applying those volume and surface area skills to some real world problems. So today you can see our learning target at the top. We will calculate surface area and volume of three-dimensional solids. And we're actually going to start today with this piece right here, just a review of how to calculate volume of solids, of rectangular prisms and cubes. So a reminder quick of some vocabulary. Volume is the amount of space that a solid takes up. You guys have taken a little bit of a break from calculating volume with working on only surface area last week. So we're just going to review this before we apply it to some real world problems later this week. We're going to start by finding the volume of that rectangular prism on the left side of your screen. If you remember from 2 weeks ago, we had a formula for finding volume that we start every volume problem with. So volume equals length times width times height. Now you might also remember, and we might come up to this in a problem in our practice, that if you know the area of the base of your solid, you can also use this formula, volume equals area of the base times the height. Because right here, multiplying our length times our width would give us the area of our base, or our base measure. Okay, now I'm going to use this one today, right here for this problem at least. And I am just going to real quick look at my solid to plug in those values. Volume equals, I'm going to use V equals for that, V standing for volume. And my length is 7 inches times 10 inches for my width, and times a height of 9 inches. We don't have to put those in there, but I messed up on the 10, so I'll just add them both in. Okay, now you might find when you are multiplying these three numbers, remember I've asked you to work on this step by step, but you might find that some pieces of this multiplication are easier for you to do, or you might find one of our strategies we've learned over the course of the year to work best for you. Now, when I see this happening, and I'm going to model this for you, this might not be the same brain connection that you're making, and that's okay. But when I go to do my multiplication here, I see that for me, it would be easier to multiply 9 times 7. I know 9 times 7 is 63. And then I still need to multiply 63 times 10. Now I did that because for me, it'd be easier to multiply 9 times 7 is 63, then times 10, instead of 7 times 10 is 70 times 9. But you can find whatever way works best for you. And I know that 63 times 10 is 630. And remember, we're finding volume here. So that means that our volume equals 630 cubic inches. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to practice that volume review by finding the volume of this solid. And I can see that all of the side lengths of the solid on the screen are all 6, 6, 6, and they don't have any units on them, inches, feet, yards. So we're just going to call them cubic units. And we can use our same formula, volume equals length times width times height. Now, this makes it pretty easy with a cube. I don't have to go through any work of figuring out which number is my length, my width, or my height. And even if I did, we're multiplying them all together. And so I'm going to rewrite this. V equals, I'm going to plug in my values here. 6, 6, 6. And then remember, when you solve these, I've been looking at and making comments on your practice or your independent practices you've been sending and sharing with me. And a lot of times when we're finding both volume and surface area, we're not doing that kind of step-by-step work. I know a lot of you might be using a calculator, and that is okay. But still try and remember to work through this step-by-step. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. I'm just going to multiply 6 times 6 here is 36. I did this part. Now I'm going to real quick model the standard algorithm here. If you would like to do this using the area model or a partial product way to do multiplication, that's okay too. 36 times 6. I know that 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 3 is 18. and plus 3 is 21. So we are looking at a volume of 216 cubic units for our cube. Okay, this is one of the types of problems that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to read the problem and then we're going to talk about how we're going to use what we know about volume to find our answer. The base of a rectangular prism has an area of 15 square feet. The prism is 8 feet tall. What is the volume of the prism? I'm going to first start by writing our volume formula. V equals length times width times height. Now this problem is a little bit unique. We know that the base has an area of 15 square feet and the height is 8 feet because it says our prism is 8 feet tall. Now, when you guys are doing these real world problems this week, and I'm going to try and model this in some more of the mini lessons, it is probably going to be a good idea for you to have some kind of model or image drawing of a rectangular prism or a cube. I'm going to do that real quick the way that I like to do this, and you guys have an actual tool on your Google Docs where you can draw these. But if you have a piece of paper with you, I just start by drawing a rectangle, and then I work to make that rectangle three-dimensional. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I plug in what I know. So again, I know my rectangular prism is 8 feet tall, so that would be our height. And then I know that the base has an area of 15 square feet, okay? So that means that this bottom layer, one of the 8 layers or 1 foot tall layers is going to be 15 square feet. Okay, so we don't have our length measure or our width measure, but we know that those two numbers have to multiply together to get 15 because that's how we find the area of our base. Now, instead of using this formula, we're going to kind of use that formula, but instead, we know that these two measures, our length and our width, together, those equal 15. And then we can use that 15 and multiply it times our height to find our volume. Okay? Now, if you get to this point too, and you want to use your area model or partial product, or you want to use some derived facts, that's okay too. I am going to continue to do our little standard algorithm here and model this for you. Because as we learned in the very beginning of the school year, this is probably the most efficient way to do multiplication. And I know that 5 times 8 is 40. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. So our volume of our rectangular prism is equal to 120 cubic units.